So I'm now joined by Pompey Academy manager Mark Kelly. So good evening, Mark. How are we?
I'm good, Sam. How are you doing?
That's good. Yes, very well as always. It's great to be talking to you this evening. So let's just talk about your new role at the club. You've taken over from Andy Awford's role as he's now in the first team. How's it all going?
Yeah, very good. It's been extremely busy, as you can imagine. You know, we've had pre-season. We've been on pre-season tours to Holland with the youth team. The schoolboy program's really just starting again now. Now school's back in, so there's been plenty of work going on. Obviously, where I've had to replace quite a few staff as well.
Yeah.
Because people have moved up and moved across and whatever. The club structure's changed a little bit, so there's been plenty of work going on in recruitment, getting in the right people to do the job, but also, getting the boys back in and getting them working again.
What's it like working with Mikey Harris, a former Salisbury City manager?
Yeah, Mikey's he's a good young manager. He's got excellent knowledge, and on the ground when the lads are working with them, the age difference is, he can connect with them really, really well with bits and pieces. He picks up things. We have chats, and obviously when myself and Orson and maybe Hardy and that are sitting there, he'll pick things up. He asks a lot of questions. He's always looking to get better, and the boys have really, really enjoyed working with him.
He's only young as well. He's just under 30. So what does that do for you, having such a young coach on your side with so much knowledge?
But the fact of the matter is, youth development is very much about consistency and long-term planning. It's not about, here and tomorrow. It's about, trying to keep staff for a long term. Yeah. That you can build some continuity, you can build some, relationships with, one, the boys, and two, the staff. So it's important that the academy staff, we try and get them settled, and you're looking for a little bit of longevity out of it. You don't really want to keep trying to change people over. And Mikey, being of that age of 30, it's a good age to go forward, as he says. He's only young, so he's got quite a good few years in front of him if he wants to carve out first team manager's job. But here, it's a very, very good place to be surrounded by people that can help him, one, pick up things, and two push him for, help him to move forward.
We spoke to Mikey Harris last week on the show, and he was mentioning just how much it was too good of an offer to turn down to come back to his hometown. Yeah,
he's a hometown boy. His dad had a big instrumental part to do with, he was very much part of the club many, many years ago, and they are of the town. So yeah, listen, it's the Portsmouth way, isn't it? You've got blue in your blood, and you tend to stay with your home club if you can. So he's glad to be back.
That's great. Looking at yourself then, Mark, of course you were broadcasting with Radio Solent. How is it swapping from the radio going into coaching, or have you done coaching before?
Listen, I was academy manager for 5.5 years, Sam.
Yeah.
In the Premier League days. So under Harry, I'm just stepping back into an old role that I've done before. I've been myself 15 years development. I worked 5 years as youth team manager down at Bournemouth quite a few years ago. So listen, I've 14 years coaching, but it's one of those things now. From a management point of view, you just it's to oversee the technical program and make sure everything's running smoothly within the academy. So it's something that I know inside out, Sam, because as I say, I did it. I was academy manager for 5.5 years before. So it's nothing new to me. It's just, sure, where the club is and where we need to build now.
When Andy and Paul moved on to the first team, was that vacancy free for you to choose, or did they choose you?
Well, I was working. I was doing other things. I had some other little businesses going, but I was also working as the League Foundation. Andy asked me to come back a few years ago, and then I was doing the radio alongside that. So he asked me to come in and to come back and help him build it again, him and Hardy. Because again, when I first took over the time before, I brought Paul in to help me and assist me to try and build it up. So it was one of those things that I think, we sat down and he said, look, listen, I'm moving, obviously, I'm moving upwards, and that it's very, I want the continuity to continue, and I think, it's between us, it could be a perfect combination. So that was the kind of conversations we went. We had that conversation, and it's kind of joined up thinking really, because as I say, I know all the kids. I've been around the academy a long time, so it's probably just a perfect match, really.
Yeah. Going back to, as you mentioned there, that you've been academy manager before for 5.5 years. If we look at what's happened recently, the Tifosi campaign for 270k raised by the fans, what's your reaction been to that compared to the support you received back then?
Oh, listen, it's a different feel. You're in the Premier League. They were spending money. It's the way it was. But now there's the fantastic thing about what's going on. There's a real infrastructure being built. A lot of it, in my view, and I've said it before, that a lot of those days was built on sand. There was a lot of investment in players, but there was no infrastructures anywhere. But the Tifosi money and. I went up there the other day. I went to Rocco. And what's going on there is just massive strides for the football club. It's a real structural thing. It's a real foundation base. And listen, it's one thing that we just never had, even through the Premier League days when the money was being spent. It wasn't being spent in the right areas, Sam.
Yeah.
And the right areas is infrastructure, and the fans help to get that infrastructure in for the academy alongside the first team down there. It's just, listen, it's massively important. It's vital, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And
it's one thing that we've always had to battle against, trying to find places to train and play. And, but now, as I said, it had a real warm feeling walking down there on the other day, on Monday, and having a good look around with Mark Catlin, the chief exec, and Andy. And, things are really, really coming together. You can see it all coming in place. And it's just a massive stride for the football club.
As you mentioned there yourself there, Mark, regarding the investments that Pompey would have had back in the Premier League days in terms of players, does that mean now that, of course, we all know anyway, that there's more of an importance for the academy?
Yeah, there definitely is. I think if you look at the first two, you mentioned going to the game last night, but you see, you've got Danny Butler, Jack Watmore, then Jed Wallace, and then obviously Ben Close comes on.
That's it.
And I mean, you went to the youth team game the other day. We've got some very, very good individuals in with that group, with those groups coming through, Sam. So it's, I can see the production line still being a healthy one, and it's down to myself and the staff to keep pushing and keep making sure that conveyor belt keeps moving, because it's vital for the football club. If we can produce homegrown players and we don't have to go out, and source them, obviously it's going to be a lot financially more rewarding for the football club. So it's vitally important.
You mentioned there, so you don't have to finance for youth players. Is that the difference maker between Pompey and Southampton in terms of quite a lot of their youth players are brought in?
Brought in as in brought from other places?
Yes, such as Lallana was brought in from Bournemouth, and Sam Gallagher was from Plymouth.
And Walcott was brought in from Swindon. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been looking at it, identifying it, and bringing them in, as you say, at probably 14, 15 years of age. I mean, we've got boys in and around the youth team now that are playing that I first had the first time I was around at 9 years of age. So they really are homegrown players, and the more we can do that, and the more we can look in our own area and little bits of far, and try and work hard and get that information into them, and that desire into them that they want to go out and play for Portsmouth Football Club.
Let's take a look at some of the recent results for the academy then. They've not been in terms of the way that Portsmouth would have wanted these games to pan out. The past two games there's been defensive errors, and of course going back to the Cheltenham game, there was the hand of God incident that occurred from the Cheltenham player, which the referee ruled against a Portsmouth player, which surprised everybody at First Lane. How is the results in your terms? Are you happy with them, or are they going to pick up?
Results biased. I mean, Saturday was a prime example. I sit there and I watch the video clips. We've had 27 shots, Sam. We've had total control of the game. The boys are, they're in control in different areas. As you said, it's one or two individual mistakes that need to be eradicated. But that's the great joy of youth development. They have to go out and experience that and work hard at making that better. But listen, it's not about. It's about producing players long term. Yeah. Results are important because you want that winning mentality in players. That's extremely important, and the boys always want to go out and they want to win. But it's vitally important that you see that ability coming out and they're confident enough to go out and do these things. And Saturday as I said to you, I walked off the pitch and their boy came over to me, who I'd known very well because I worked with him down at Bournemouth, Joe Roach, and he said,
Yeah.
you know, we just weren't in the game. I said, yeah, but, you know, for those two little mistakes, that you've gone and scored 2 goals. So that's what our boys have got to get better at. But as for, you know, the way that they go about it and the way they played on Saturday, I think it was clear for everybody to see, Sam, that, you know, there's some excellent individuals coming through and, you know, it's all looking bright.
That's right. Everything you said there about players being, you know, with the production of players, and that's the importance. Everything you said there is exactly what Mikey said, and it's what Andy and Paul have echoed in the past. So you've got the same ethos as what's been used in the past, and of course you're using similar formations to what the first team are using.
Yeah, we're using, we'll change two or three systems the way that the first team go, because as I said to you before, you know, now we've got this reserve team also going. I'm sure those systems will be used in the reserve team, and you certainly want the boys to have the education when they step up, which quite a lot of them have already, Sam. You know, the first game we played, we had 5 or 6 boys involved, and, you know, that will continue all season. But it's vital for us to give them the knowledge and education that, look, if it's a system and it's, you know, we're playing 3 at the back or we're playing 4 at the back, you know, it means this to you, and, you know, they understand the roles and responsibilities when they step up and they go and play with the pros, you know, at Peterborough and such like in the reserve. So it's about the education. The education is vitally important, you know, that the individual is armed with everything they need to try and make that step up and go and get themselves in that first team. That is the most important thing. So, you know, I don't sit there and, you know, the results, you know, listen, they'll win games, they'll lose games, but, you know, it's youth development. It's about giving those boys the knowledge of how the football work clubs, how the system works, and what they need to do to try and get in that first team squad. That's the most important thing.
Fans have said in the past that regarding the Johnston Paint Trophy, there's been fans that have thought it wasn't as important as other trophies. Is it something you feel that young players deserve a chance to play in?
Well, I think it's one of those. I think the balance is, you know, we also talk about, you know, the need to be, if you're being consistent, you should be considered. You know, it's one of those situations. And, you know, if the JPT comes along and, you know, 1 or 2 of our boys are excelling extremely well and Orf thinks, well, it might be time to blood a few. It's a bit like Ben Close, wasn't it, when he stepped in?
That's it.
But he's a young pro at this moment in time. So we've got boys knocking on the door through that development squad, like Ben Close and Jack Maloney's, and you know, our boys have just got to be pushing and being keen to get themselves in that reserve squad as they play and get in that shop window. You know, when all of us are there, that's the whole staff, Hardy, Macca, and, you know, myself and the manager. Yeah. You know, they go and shine and they go and show people what they're about.
I think the thing that excites the young players the most is playing on the big stages in the FA Youth Cup. What from in the past when you've been manager, what have you learnt from the young players' spirits from playing in those games? How they've improved? Yeah,
listen, it's one of those things that, you know, they love playing on the main grounds under lights. You know, it's what it is. We usually play on Saturday mornings, 11 o'clock. You know, it's just something totally different for them. It's a different focus. You know, it's their opportunity to show, you know, home fans, because we've had some good crowds in the past as well down at Fratton Park to come and watch the youth game. Just an opportunity for the boys really to show, you know, showcase themselves a little bit in front of probably fans that might not get to see them down when they're playing. Which we'd always like to say, you know, any fans out there that want to come and watch the games on a Saturday morning, you're more than welcome, because, you know, they're more than welcome to come down, have a little look and see what the youth team's all about, and have a look at those kids that potentially can be coming through. Because we all have, you know, it's a big conversation piece. And I remember growing up as a kid playing and, you know, coming through as a youth team player, and, you know, we'd have a good 200-300 fans, supporters turn up and come and watch. So, you know, it'd be nice to see, you know, faces coming down and having a little look, which would be really nice.